Tonight on KGW News, vandals caught on camera smashing up Multnomah County's election headquarters. Plus,
very optimistic, very happy.
Very disappointed, disheartened.
looking to the future or fearing it as President Trump makes a flurry of changes just hours into his return to the White House. Then a community puts politics aside and finds common ground.
We need to come together. We need to see each other as human beings.
We take you to the local street where being a good neighbor, no matter the flag flying outside, always comes first. And later,
there's no other way to put it, it's just wrong.
How LA authorities arrested an Oregon pair they say were fake firefighters. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. We begin tonight with President Donald Trump's return to the White House, which on day one wasn't just about the pomp and circumstance and the peaceful transition of power, but about a slew of executive orders from policy prescriptions to pardons for January 6 defendants, dozens issued within just hours of the president taking the oath of office. It is a running and growing list of actions that include on immigration, declaring an emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border and ending birthright citizenship, a move that's already sparked a lawsuit. On climate, taking the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Treaty, and on gender, rolling back certain protections for transgender people, including proclaiming there are only two biological sexes. Susan McGinnis begins our coverage from the nation's capital.
First dance at the first inaugural ball for President Trump and the First Lady, even though it's their second time around. It's one of three balls capping a day filled with ceremonies, celebrations, even an indoor parade. But amid the festivities and galas, it was down to business. President Trump signing a flurry of executive orders trying to fulfill his campaign promises, including pardons for about 1,500 criminal defendants charged in the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
We hope they come out tonight, frankly.
About 10 actions are aimed at the U.S. border, including deporting undocumented migrants, resuming construction of the border wall, and restarting the Remain in Mexico policy. Another order attempts to end birthright citizenship, requiring a reinterpretation of the 14th Amendment. And President Trump is ordering changes in U.S. energy and climate policy.
We have more oil and gas than any country in the world, and we're going to use it. We're not going to do the wind thing. I'm immediately withdrawing from the unfair, one-sided Paris Climate Accord ripoff.
An ambitious day one agenda as President Trump reclaims the White House.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
Promising a new era for America. Susan McGinnis, NBC News, Washington.
All right, let's bring in Alma McCarty in the newsroom with new and local reaction to the president's executive orders when it comes to immigration. Alma?
Well, David, Oregon was actually the first state to enact sanctuary laws back in the 1980s, which restrict state and local government, that includes law enforcement, from helping to enforce federal immigration laws without an order signed by a judge. But there's still a sense of unease here, and these orders are top of mind.
I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country.
On Inauguration Day, President Donald Trump took swift action when it comes to immigration.
We will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
Among a series of executive orders, Trump reversed several from Biden's presidency, including one which had narrowed deportation priorities to people who commit serious crimes or who were stopped at the border.
I think immigration's a huge issue. I think we've gotten so comfortable, I think, with the asylum process and allowing people to come in from all over the place.
Supporters like Kurt Williams with the Washington County Republican Party appreciate the president moving quickly with these actions.
The first 2 years, he has to hit the ground running, and I'm actually really excited.
However, others view these orders in a negative light.
These are draconian, reactionary, hateful executive orders are coming out of the new administration. White supremacy is alive and well in this country. And you look at who's being targeted in these actions. These are our neighbors. It's making me sick.
Reverend Dr. W.J. Mark Knutson, the senior pastor at Augustana Lutheran Church, declared this congregation sanctuary decades ago.
These are awful laws, and they're not what this country's about. So I hope everybody wakes up, whoever voted for whom. I don't that's not my business, but get up tomorrow and say, no, I'm committed to stand with my neighbors and to walk with them.
He's preparing to stand up to these policies as organizations like PCUN, Oregon's Farm Workers Union, prepare to support and defend their communities.
We stand with immigrant Oregonians to reject these measures and to really make sure that our communities are not divided and that our families stay together, because we know that any mass deportation attack would really devastate Oregon, including its citizens, our local institutions, and our local economy.
A source told NBC News that Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials are planning a major operation that will target immigrants for several days, which could begin as early as tomorrow. Cities like D.C., Philadelphia, L.A., Denver, and Chicago were named as possible locations for early enforcement actions. David?
Yeah, likely we'll be talking about this for weeks, if not months or longer. Thank you, Alma. Meanwhile, many of those convicted of crimes during the January 6th riot at the Capitol are now waiting to see not if but when they'll get out of prison following President Trump's pardons today. Media in Miami reporting the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, has already been released. KGW has covered 9 cases of people from Oregon or Southwest Washington who faced criminal charges. Of those, at least 4 are serving prison time right now. The president also ordering the Justice Department to seek the dismissal of roughly 450 cases that are still pending before judges from what is now the largest investigation in department history.
There's just not much to say, honestly. Like, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what people are thinking.
And I really trust in Trump to get everything down to a substantial living cost so we can actually live comfortably from here on out.
That is just a taste of what we heard in the Rose City on the first day of a new Trump administration, a mix of fear, uncertainty, but also hope and optimism. And speaking of the latter, local Republicans marked President Trump's return with a party of their own. Catherine Cook spoke with some in the GOP about what today means to them.
From Washington, D.C. to here in Washington County, Trump supporters say Monday was a day to celebrate, an opportunity to reflect on what the future might look like compared to the last 4 years and even Trump's first administration.
Happy Liberation Day!
Unabashed joy on a day these Republicans have had marked on their calendars for months.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Hours after President Trump was sworn into office for the second time, these supporters gathered at the Stock Pot in Beaverton. The Washington County Republican Party organized this celebration where many felt Trump's presence in spirit.
Exciting. I am thrilled to see what the future will bring.
Jennifer Addition and many others in this room think of what the next 4 years could mean financially, given the country's recent struggles with inflation.
I'm hoping that my kids will be able to afford a home and that they can achieve that dream of being in America and buying a home.
I was sad that I'm supposed to be retired, but I had to get out of retirement because of the inflation. Now I'm full-time working at my age, which I won't tell you.
In the background of this party, a live stream of one in Washington, D.C., attended by hundreds of Oregonians.
We are so excited to be here in this moment and representing Oregon.
State Rep Vicki Brees-Iverson and Oregon GOP Chair Justin Hong were among those at the Capitol.
And I look forward to have President Trump have new policies to help our Oregonian small business owners as well. So I look forward to our bright future for the next 4 years.
Thank you.
Those celebrating back home are also thinking of Oregon's future, wondering if some might see Trump through their eyes down the line.
I think everybody will end up being happy with the agenda that's happening because it's going to help everybody.
In Beaverton, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines now, authorities are searching for the people who vandalized Multnomah County's elections headquarters overnight. Surveillance video showing several people tagging the building with graffiti about 2 this morning. Officials say they broke more than 24 windows and also 2 doors. Police describe the messages the vandals left behind as anti-establishment and anti-government.
We have seen these types of attacks regardless of who's in office. It does not tend to be so much associated with the ruling party as much as it has to do with a ideological belief.
Repair crews quickly boarded up the windows and cleaned up the glass. The office will be open as usual tomorrow. In Salem, authorities are investigating an overnight car fire at a Tesla dealership. One they say appears to be arson. One car was burned and a dealership window was broken. Nobody was hurt and no word on a motive, though the FBI is assisting, telling us it is standard practice to help local authorities if the FBI has, quote, tools, tactics, or techniques that could benefit the investigation. And 2 people from Oregon were arrested in the LA area over the weekend for allegedly impersonating firefighters. Authorities say they stopped Dustin and Jenny Neal at a checkpoint trying to get into an evacuation zone. Police say they were driving a former fire truck with a fake agency name on the front. The LA Times reporting a real firefighter saw some inaccuracies, problems with the truck, and then reported it. Portland firefighters, who sent in 18 crew members to help in California, call the whole thing maddening.
It's a very honorable trade, and one that's really built on a foundation of trust and integrity. To know that someone is impersonating us and then violating people in their most darkest hours is just, I find it repulsive, and it's heartbreaking is really what it is.
We should learn more about the pair when investigators present the case to the LA County DA tomorrow. By the way, speaking of wildfires, it's not too late to donate to KGW's Northwest Response Fund in connection with the American Red Cross. You can donate by scanning the code through the links at kgw.com or in person at any U.S. bank branch. So far, some 500 of you have donated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Together, we have raised over $64,000 to help survivors in Southern California.